Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, well, we're checking out the RC10 Worlds cards from Team Associated.
FBI, open up!
In 8th place on the grid, again a racer we've seen a lot of in the UK, well travelled, well liked. Will you please welcome from America, Brian Kinwald.
Unless you've been living under a rock recently, you'll know that the RC10 Brian Kinwald has finally dropped. And just as this one was being released, this came up, an original Worlds car that turned up on eBay, and as you can see, it's in lovely condition. Kind of thinking to myself, maybe everybody's spent their money on this, so there won't be as many people looking to buy a vintage one and spend the kind of money that these used to demand. And that turned out to be the case. I managed to pick this up for an absolute bargain.
That's pretty good.
Cause I have $30,000 in credit card debt.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh. Oh, why are all my pages stuck together in my manuals? I can't put that in. Especially as it comes with a pro-painted body, it came with a Kinwald motor, and when you turn it over, it actually looks like it's done very little running at all. Very happy about that. So I finally managed to get all three. So we've got the original 1994 Worlds, then we have the 2014 Worlds, and then we have the new one for 2025. Sorry to interrupt your viewing pleasure, but how would you like to win one of these beauties for less than the price of a coffee? What's that? Before you skip, don't skip, because I've got something very exciting to tell you. But before that, you could win a Turbo Optima for less than the price of a coffee. Not this exact one, a brand new in-box one that will be delivered to your door free of charge. Also, the just released Masami RC10. Now, what was it I was going to tell you? Well, for free, yes, free, you can get a ticket to win a brand new bigwig. Yep, totally for free. No catches, no special things, no special handshakes. Totally for free as a thanks to everybody else who takes part in the other raffles. Anyway, back to the show. My plan is I'm not actually going to build this for now. And the reason behind that is, well, I've just got a vintage one. I've already got the re-release one, and I'm running out of space.
Are you serious?
I'm not a box collector by any means, but it would be kind of crazy for me to build this right now, as well as the Masami one's coming, and I've got the Fan RC, which is the one I'm actually going to build because I want to race that one.
He says he's actually going to drive one of his cars. That makes a bit of a change from being a shelf queen collector and a box collector.
Well, in my defense, yeah, I got nothing. So I'm thinking for the time being, just keep it in the box, even though the box was a little bit damaged in shipping, unfortunately. But it's still one I really wanted to get, as I've fallen in love with these. They are absolutely stunning cars. Right, I think that's enough waffle. So let's take a good look at the vintage one and compare it to the re-releases.
We wanted to try to make this a true tribute to Brian Kinwald's winning World Championship car. And I think we came pretty close.
Right, let's take a look at the 1994 Worlds car from Team Associated in the Brian Kinwald livery. But before we do that, let's just go way back to what actually created this car in the first place, and that was Brian Kinwald himself. Now, born October the 6th, 1973, pretty much exactly a year before I was born. Unfortunately, he passed away in April the 3rd, 2019. Brian suffered from Crohn's disease, which shortened his life and was a real battle for him. Back in 1993, Brian took his modified RC10 and took it to Basildon, Essex.
Sponsored by Associated, Reedy, Proline and Yokomo. From America, Brian Kinwald. They're going to come in the RC10 Worlds. There he goes, Brian Kinwald winning the new World Champion, touching the confirmation, Brian Kinwald.
Right, hi Brian. You seem to have a lot of success in this country. You won the Reedy in 1991 and now you've won this race.
Yeah.
How pleased are you about this race today?
Most happy I've ever been. I've been working hard. It'll be good.
How are your nerves?
Right now they're terrible.
So Team Associated decided to do a version of that car and release it to the public, which is basically what you see here. But this is not a true replica of what he did. It kind of is, but there's a lot of the modifications that he did himself that just never made it into this car. It's not like the 2025 re-release that we've seen today, where they did a lot more of the modifications that Brian did to his car, like cutting the chassis down. He had a hydrodrive in his. Obviously this didn't come with that, as that even wasn't Team Associated. The original Worlds car, when it was released, had Brian Kinwald on the box, but Brian moved over to Team Losi, so apparently they actually took him off the box, and there's two versions of the original box for this car. Unfortunately, I don't have the box for this, but it still has his lovely livery. Now, it's funny, this is professionally painted, so you can see how well it's done, but Brian back in the day used to draw around it with the pen himself, so a lot of people have replicas, and it's not exactly like Brian's car. If anything, these are a better turnout than what he had. Also, there was lots of other bits and pieces, like he had blue little spacers. He'd cut the back section off of the motor mount, as well as lightened it. So he had quite a few bits changed that you don't see on the 1994 car. This one had a pro body painted to it. As you can see, I'm missing one number, so I need to get that sorted. But when I got this, I've already done some modifications to it already. The main ones were, I've changed the tyres, as the ones that were on it were absolutely finished. I changed these screws back to the correct ones, which are black. Then the body itself wasn't actually fitted to the car, it was just sitting on the car, so I've actually created the holes to mount it, as well as it didn't have the mounts attached, so I've screwed them in where they should be. It was also missing the battery tray cover, which I've now got. The motor, it comes with a Kinwald motor. If I can get the specifications, I'll put it up here. But that was a nice thing that came with the car as well. Obviously not with the kit, that's just this one I'm talking about. Another thing that I noticed, the actual blocks for the servo. Now, I'm not sure if these are original or not, but there's no holes in them. Well, I'm happy to report I actually got the original manual with it, so I had a look to see what it says in the manual about the drilling the servo mounts. And sure enough, right down here, it says, now remove the two servo mounts and drill your marked holes. So yeah, they are right. The actual car has done very little work at all. It looks to be in really good condition considering its age. I'm getting some new bolts, so that'll clean that up a little bit, as well as the rear arms are actually damaged where they've been whacked. It's chipped off the outer edge lip, so I'm going to replace those as well. Apart from that, I don't really plan on doing a great deal to it. Yes, it would be nice to put vintage electronics in it, but I don't know, we'll see if they come up. And someone has cut a corner out of here, I'm guessing for the battery cable, so maybe I'll replace this. I don't know, we'll see if I can find a vintage one. The turnbuckles were all marked up, so I changed them back to originals that I had, vintage originals, just to neaten it all up again. And it was missing this whole servo mount, so I have got a vintage servo horn, vintage mount as well. So that it needs a servo put into it. So that was another thing that was missing. Came with the Kinwald pinion gear, so I fitted that to the car. The rear section, a lot of you, I posted some photos on the RCKicks Facebook page, and these bolts were incorrect, and also the spacers were missing, so that's another thing that's been added. But all in all, it's in lovely condition. I'm super chuffed to have got it. Oh yeah, the only other thing was, it had a lot of black tape in these positions, so I neatened it up by removing all the black tape that was all sort of stuck in there, and then put in the silver tape to help with the rubbing, just to make it look a little bit more spiffy. But there you go, so super chuffed. Right, let's take a look at the re-released 2014 version. This car actually played quite a big part in why Team Associated didn't get back into the re-market, until really recently, and that's kind of why they're now rushing to release as many as they are, because Team Associated released a Gold Pan re-release. Let's go back over 5 years. So never been driven, just sat on the shelf doing not a lot. Obviously it's not crazy old, 6 years old. And this, but it was a little bit too early. The market hadn't matured and vintage hadn't become as big a thing as it is today, so they didn't sell that well. Yes, believe it or not, these didn't sell that well, and they had to discount them to sell them off. Sounds crazy in today's market, but that's what it was like. After they did that, they decided they were never going to do any re-re's again, as it cost them a lot of money, and whether they made any return on it. Anyway, time passed on, and then suddenly these became more and more expensive. Speaking from experience, as I bought this one as a new in box for £650. Yes, that's right, I paid £650 for this one, and I bought an original one for just over half recently. So yeah, how markets change, hey? So it went from being super unpopular to being ridiculously expensive to being reasonably cheap again. But that's how it works. Now, there's a few things this is not standard. These wheels are obviously not the kit ones. These are Yokomo mounts, so ignore that. But apart from that, the rest of it is all pretty much the same. So I had the body professionally painted in the Kinwald livery, but more Team Losi. But later on, he kind of flopped around a little bit and changed these liveries on different cars. So I kind of just really like this style, so that's why I went with it anyway. So the main difference between this and the, where's the other one? And the original one, well, the first thing that jumps out at you massively is the shocks. The shocks that came on this one are threaded. So a much more modern design versus the collars that you got on the original one. And it's brilliant to see that the 2025 one that's just been released has the collars and they didn't go with the threaded. Kind of fascinating, because when they released the first one, it was obviously about racing. So they produced one that people could take racing and would modify. Then when they did a re-re, they kind of wanted to release the car as it was, but then they didn't realize that people wanted exact replicas of like Brian Kinwald's car. So they just did put some changes and put slightly newer things on, and then they released this. So you can see the evolution of the vintage. Now people like exact replicas, so when they brought out the Brian Kinwald 2025, it's way closer, as again this one doesn't have the cutout sections, it doesn't have the machining, doesn't have the lower chassis. If you actually look at the stealth transmission diff housing, there's no actual reinforcements. Whereas if you look at the first re-release, you can see they've actually gone back and strengthened it. So that mold has been modified, or it's a totally new mold, which I think it probably is. Also, if you start looking at parts like this part here, it's got the divot in the middle of it, whereas the original one didn't. So it's actually a different part. There is a full build video on this one, so I'll put a link up here. Go check it out if you want to see a full build. I still have the original rims, they're just in the box, and I have the box and the manual and everything. Another thing you can see, it doesn't have the correct battery mount, as well as the towers, again like the original 1994, not the same as Brian's. Front tower has 3 holes to adjust it, whereas Brian's was a single one. And on the vintage one, again, it had the 3. Pretty decent replica, more so of the 1994 than the Brian Kinwald 1993 race car.
So there you go, a quick look at my 1994 Team Associated Worlds car comparison with the 2014 re-release. Yes, the Masemi has arrived. They are coming in thick and fast, as well as the Toms has. So I need to get a move on, as there's a lot of content that needs to be made. Since you all stay to the end, there's a little bit of gossip going around. Now, I don't know how true this is, but I'm hearing that there could be a DB-01 SR coming from Tamiya. Now, this could be total BS, but it seems to be cropping up in Japan a little bit.
So as a reward for watching all the way to the end, you now know. So keep your eyes out, as it would be a super popular one and I'd be really ecstatic. I've done quite a bit about the DB-01 and I love this buggy. There was the DB-01 Durga, then there was the DB-01R, the RR, and then the RRR, which is the impossible one to get hold of. So an SR would go down rather well. Also, between you and me and a lamppost, I reckon we're going to see a Masami 91 Detroit's replica possibly by the end of the year. I have no proof of that, but it sounds very likely. Also, check this out, a forged carbon RC10 four-wheel drive chassis from Fan RC. Ooh, so I was originally going to do an RC10cc chassis, as it's kind of a black and white livery, but I thought this was just cool. Also, they do towers, but I spent too much money, so I plan on getting the towers as well, but I can do them down the line a little bit. But so that will be coming as well. And I also have, still sitting in the build pile, the B5R white car. I also have a Batcave Mini that needs building, and as well as finishing a load of other stuff that I haven't finished. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.